Hello once again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, of course, we want to give a thanks to those who have helped us bring this show to you for free on whichever platform you choose to listen. Thanks to Dive Bar, as we mentioned, they helped get us through. They're one of the organizations, one of the businesses that gave us some money for the after party during the course of the summertime, and that certainly helped us to bounce back a little bit and put some money in our pockets per se. Thanks to IWTV and Smart Mark Video. Now the merger of the two has made it so that watching independent wrestling in general, but specifically AIW, it's never been easier. If you go to smartmarkvideo.com, you can purchase DVDs or MP4s of anything that's ever been in the AIW video archive. And if you go to independentwrestling.tv, sign up, use the code ABSOLUTE so they know that we sent you. It's just $9.99 a month. You get an unlimited amount of hours. So much content to stream in terms of independent wrestling that dates way back. You can watch people who are on television now. You can see where they started and where they came from. You can watch the stars of tomorrow. There's just so much there on IWTV, including a rotating archive of AIW shows and our most recent shows, including this past weekend's One Step Ahead, already available on IWTV for streaming. So you can check that out, plus live streams that occur regularly. It's all for just $9.99. There's no additional fees for things, so pretty incredible there. And, of course, thanks to Smokin' Jay's Barbecue. Smokin' Jay's, hey, if you are in the Massillon area, big opening this weekend, October 8th and 9th for Smokin' Jay's Barbecue. You typically get to eat that at our live shows at the Odeon. It's there and available for you, but now you can actually go to a physical location for them. They're doing deliveries and pickup, all sorts of great things. Go to @smokin, no G, _Jays, Jays, BBQ on Instagram and Twitter for more information there. And with that, we roll into this week's episode. As we sit here, it feels like it's been forever since we haven't had an episode that is a hard sell, but that's where we are today. Just a nice little fun episode for you. As always, AIW owner John Thorne is here.
I am.
My name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts.
Present.
And we're coming off the heels of One Step Ahead. A lot to talk about with that show. It feels like AIW is back, but before all of that, John Thorne, it's time for the shout-out segments. We have some shout-outs this week. Quite a few shout-outs at that.
I'll kick it off. Go for it, buddy. Shout out to Eric Roberts, brother of Julia Roberts, who I had a very weird interaction with on Friday night. Went to Cinema Wasteland, which was back for the first time since the pandemic. And, they have given us tables in the past, sporadically over the years. And no table this year, but I wanted to go out and kind of support since they've had to cancel, I think, three or four of their last scheduled conventions because of the pandemic. So,
wow.
Stopped out there Friday after work, and Eric Roberts was randomly there. They typically don't get too many guests that you are aware of. You know what I mean? It's very much like a cult classic centric guest. And Eric Roberts was there. And I was like, well, best of the best, The Dark Knight, one of the most legendary entourage cameos of the entire run of the show. I was like, and he's just sitting there, like nobody's talking to him. So I was like, okay, I'll go talk to Mr. Eric Roberts, and he was hammered. It was like 6:30, and he must have been drinking on the plane because he was in a good place. He had no 8x10s, no anything. He kept saying, "I don't know, my pictures are supposed to be coming in an hour." So I don't know, if the promoter was knew he was coming. I don't know if he was advertised in advance or at all, or it must not have been that far in advance because they weren't very prepared. So he was doing selfies for $20. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll take a picture with you. And I went to, like have somebody take the photo for me, and he got very angry. Oh. And he said, no, it says selfie. And then he gave me a class on what a selfie is, as if I was totally oblivious to selfies. And he covered my face up in the selfie, so that's the one I posted. $20 well spent, I think. It was such a weird 10 minutes. He forgot that I paid him. So
okay.
And I walked around for about an hour and a half, waiting to see if he had any good 8x10s or movie posters or anything. And maybe those 8x10s showed up on Saturday. Hopefully, they definitely did not make it on Friday. And I couldn't wait around all night, to see if he had any good best of the best posters or anything, because I bought tickets to go see the Many Saints of Newark. So shout out to David Chase as well. He got my money. Eric Roberts and David Chase got my money on Friday night. So shout out to them.
There you go. I'm going to lead a shout out off with a guy that we used to always throw in the sponsor opening. But this week he gets a shout out. Shout out to Jake from Pollyanna DIY. The man, Pollyanna DIY himself. He finally comes to an AIW
in
show.
In the flesh.
Taking photos ringside. He was there this weekend. Man, so great to, put a face to this thing that we say every weekend. And he was so thankful that we still bring him up every single week, no matter what. And he said he still gets some messages here and there, but it's allowed him to just get rid of random things that he still has. People ask and inquire, and he's, I have this or whatever. And, man, great. That was his first AIW show ever, I think.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Crazy. Oh, I got another shout out. Oh, a shout out that I forgot last weekend. Shout out to my grandmother who turned 84.
Yeah.
Spent last Sunday with her. Took her to the casino. Took her out for a nice Italian meal.
Where did you go?
We went to Bar Italia in Lakewood.
Oh yeah.
Highly recommend it. Okay. Shout out to Bar Italia.
Shout out to Bar Italia.
It was it was good. It was good little wholesome family John Thorne day. Like spending the day with my grandma on a Sunday. Fully funding her slot machines for the day, which was a very poor decision. But, she's done a lot for me over the years, so figured I can pump a couple $100 into some slot machines for her. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was, so I forgot to shout that out, but that's, that's an accomplishment, 84 years old,
Yeah, that's a big deal. Big deal. That's awesome. Shout out to Grandma. Well, since you brought up food, I'm going to skip over to those shout-outs. Shout out to the Tadmore Shrine concession crew holding it down. They got those Sundays. Everybody loves those. And also to the Upper Deck. Cooked in a casket burger? Apparently no joke. But just the fact that they were open and basically the whole roster went there after the show. The Upper Deck.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have an official after party. So there was really nothing going on, and I just happened to I'll give you another shout out to the Town Tavern. I went to the Town Tavern for a little breakfast on Saturday morning. It's a couple miles away from the Tadmore Shrine. I got down there bright and early, and they had a flyer for this pop-up haunted house Halloween bar. So I grabbed that, and I was just like, oh, maybe, it looked like it was like a 5-minute drive from the Tadmore Shrine. So I kind of surveyed the locker room, if anyone wanted to go grab a drink and kind of unwind a little bit after the show. So a lot of us made our way to what is known, like the flyer just said whatever bar, but, we quickly discovered it was the Upper Deck, which is a pretty popular place on the Portage Lakes. And, they had it all done up for Halloween, which was pretty cool. And I think everyone had a pretty good time. It was kind of split into two sections. Like there was like a full-on club going on, and then there was like kind of like a more chill bar area, which were,
that's where the bulk of us were. Yeah,
most of us hung out. But it was cool. Had a couple drinks, and I guess quite a few people ate there, and that was another big seller on it. Is somebody had called and they said they'd be serving food until 1 a.m. So
that was this guy.
Oh, there you go. Shout out to you.
Made the phone call because Broski was thinking about joining us, and his big thing was he's like, man, because I want to hang out with everybody, but I need to grab something to eat. Are they serving food there? And I said, let me find out, man. Because he was the second or third person to inquire about food. So I made the phone call, and they said, yeah, 1 o'clock. I was like, cool, we'll be there soon. And then we did.
Shout out to Devin McMillan. I'm just shouting him out.
Yeah?
Shouting him out.
No reason?
Just shouting out Devin.
Just wants a shout out. All right.
He supports all the shows, He really
does.
Get a shout out,
Shout out
He's always
Devin.
there.
Sports ever. He's been to a couple of my comedy shows before. Real cool.
Devin supports everybody, so we'll give Devin a shout out.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Hey, shout out to the big guy, Ryback. For
why?
Did you watch the show? The inspiration for Josh Bishop's shell shock during the main event. He did it perfectly.
Oh, he's been doing that.
Not like this. Not like the march. He did the march and everything.
Yeah, I've seen him do it. I've seen him do it. I don't know if he did it in the IW. I've seen him do it somewhere, though.
So shout out to him for that. Shout out to the AIW students. Did a pretty solid job this weekend. In particular, shout out to Kiwi, new student who
Kevin?
No, it's Kevie. I sat next to him the whole show and didn't even actually ask him.
Told me his name's Kevin.
Well, why is it Ke? No, I think it's Kevy. I'm saying it wrong. Not Kevin. I don't know. Everybody says when they talk to him in the chat, it's Kevie. So sorry, dude, fucked up your name. But I taught him how to ring a bell.
I don't know. There's so many new students, it's hard to keep track.
I taught him how to ring a bell on Saturday after he got crushed by Kaplan in the Arthur MacArthur Kaplan match. Did you see this moment?
I saw the photo.
Oof. I don't want to be a part of a Kaplan cannonball ever. No, thank you.
No.
Shout out to the crowd. Can we say that? That crowd was electric.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get into all that. Yeah. Shout out to Kim Bishop for celebrating her birthday.
That's right.
At the Tadmore Shrine. I'm sure that's probably wasn't her first choice on where to celebrate and bring the entire Bishop family out. But man, there was about 40 of them there.
They had a huge banner going.
Huge tailgate. They did a huge tailgate in the parking lot.
Shout out to the Bishop Brigade.
Yeah, Bishop Brigade was there in full force on Saturday night. Shout out to Ronald Two Legs for stepping up and taking care of our audio issues.
And those shoes.
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh man, he had some slick kicks on, dude.
Yeah, we have speakers and we have all these things, and sometimes Traxler would come and just kind of plug in and do stuff, and he is a DJ at a bar. He has a setup, you know what I mean? So he just brought his setup out and made things so much easier. Other than when he got a FaceTime call and it was somehow synced into his laptop for some reason.
At a very inopportune time as well, I might add. But
two mistakes that I got to shout out Two Legs on. Because he talked a big game. He said, if he ever got the call, he was going to have a flawless presentation for an AIW event. And he gets the FaceTime, and then he turns the mics down and runs to the bathroom during Cardona and Bishop, and Cardona grabs the mic and is trying to talk on the mic, and he has
no sound.
Everything turned down, and he has like a mixing board, and no one knows what to turn up, and we're yelling for him. He's like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "We need the mics up," and then we turned them up, and that was, it was already, the moment was over.
The moment was over. Yeah, he was trying to talk shit on Kim Bishop, and the moment was gone. Shout out to Thunder Rosa for being just a top-notch meet and greet guest and guest overall. We'll get more into it, but gotta throw that out there. She's definitely high on that list of just incredibly positive experiences with people that we brought in for the first time.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and another great experience. Shout out to Effie, who was able to really kind of make this work on his own. And him and I had a long talk about the business and being in business for yourself, as he is. And I just happened, we had been talking pre-pandemic. He was set to debut in the JLIT in 2020. It was booked months out, and that obviously did not happen. Everything fell apart, and I didn't want to just bring him in for the sake of bringing him in. And we talked a few other times with some of the comeback shows, and he wasn't available. And I happened to look and saw that he was doing like an autograph signing appearance in Columbus, Ohio on the 2nd. And I just, I inquired, I said, what time are you gonna, what time are you, are your commitments still, you can, if you really tried, you could probably make it from Columbus to Akron in like 90 minutes, at the most 2 hours. And, he was scheduled to fly out Saturday. He was going to be there until like 5 o'clock, and then he had a late night flight. And he went and he changed his flight, and he moved all these things around to be able to make the show. Also shout out to AIW student Brooke, who was there to kind of, pick him up in Columbus and then take him back to Columbus where he would fly out of. But he coordinated all this stuff, and he handled it. And it was, not to say I couldn't have, booked the flights, but he just made it so much easier on me. You know what I mean? To, he booked his flight, he booked his hotel. He used, his status points and all this other stuff to make it work. And not a lot of other people do that. They would just say, hey, I'm available if you can figure it out, and then you're kind of up to, it's up to you to coordinate all this stuff. He had it all figured out. All we had to do was find him a ride, and, it worked out.
There you go. Hey, shout out to the fan who gave Thunder Rosa their sweet Ninja Turtle button-down shirt, like a Hawaiian-style shirt, but it was Ninja Turtles. That was pretty exciting and fun. That was pretty cool. Shout out to Brian Carson for two things. Brian Carson, Smart Mark Gary was in the house, and Gary wanted to have himself a little cocktail while he was on the clock. So I got on the microphone, said, hey, can we get a vodka soda for Smart Mark Gary? Mind you, 90 minutes before that, the entire crowd chanting his name, but nobody wanted to buy him the cocktail. So I said, Brian, here's a $5. Can you go get Gary a vodka soda? Brian Carson said, absolutely, no problem. I'll be right back. And he went and did it. And then also at some point, somebody spilled water. They were all over Derek's boots. That was a little bit of a dangerous, slippery situation. Brian Carson coming into the clutch, using his sweatshirt to wipe off Derek's boots. Just a total team player on Saturday night, Brian Carson.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other shout outs. I mean, there's so many people to shout out. I mean, Saturday, shout out to Pedro.
Yeah.
For dealing with the stress of the assigned seating. And shout out to Razor Sharp with the assist on that. Razor came early, was helping Pedro and the rest of the team kind of get this organized, which we'll get more into about that in the in the Discord Q&A section of the podcast. But shout out to Pedro for kind of taking on so many of these additional responsibilities, especially that he came in with a 2-scale seating chart drawn up and assigned. So shout out to him for taking the time to do all that, among all the other things that Pedro does on a show day.
Hell yeah, very, very worthwhile there. And shout out to Dustin Alberti. We had some fun back and forth. Roasted him pretty hard on the mic, but he's such a champ and loves it and knows it's all in good fun. And man, he was making those sales happen at the AIW
I will
merch stand.
I will shout out Dustin Alberti because doing the merch is not an easy gig, and much like Pedro taking the front of the house, you have to have a trustworthy person handling, the other primary point of money coming in, on a show day. And Dustin has stepped up and, has taken over that job. And, sometimes it's a very stressful job because, I'm saying like, how are the sales? What are we selling? Like, why isn't anybody buying merch? And, it's more like rhetorical questions, stressed out questions on a show day. And he kind of has to put up with, with me, trying to, get answers that, don't exist. But in the moment, like I'm looking at the bottom line and why aren't we selling these, new t-shirts? Why aren't we selling these things? What are you doing? What wrong? You know what I mean? Like, and he takes it all in stride. And we had a big merch day in Akron. So I was very happy. We were able to move quite a bit of stuff. And it's funny. There were some autographed posters for sale, and somebody said, I would buy those right now, but Josh Bishop didn't sign them. It was like something with posters with multiple people, and Josh Bishop had not signed them. So Dustin said, hold on. He grabbed a Sharpie. He went into the locker room. He went around the whole building until he found Josh Bishop, and he got him to sign those 2 things. Then he went back and he made that sale.
Oh, shout out to AIW student who we have affectionately multiple times referred to as New Kenny over the years before he was even a student. John Thorne, I don't know if you knew this, but we sold out of raffle tickets this week.
Yeah, the 50-50. I mean, we're going to get into it a little bit when we really get into the bulk of talking about the show, but I mean, things that like the Cleveland crowd just does not participate in, the Akron crowd went above and beyond.
Yeah. Like
the 50-50 raffle was an insane pot this time around, like hundreds of dollars. So yeah, I mean, just a great day overall. I mean, we could sit here for 2 hours shouting people out, but
yeah, let's get into
some more stuff.
Well, let's talk about man, I don't even know where the heck do we start. Let's start with Thunder Rosa, okay? Because this is a question that was in the Discord as well. Somebody wanted to know our top 3 best meet and greet guests, and that's not financially, but she really won the audience over this past weekend. She took the mic during intermission. She was telling people to buy merch, telling people to buy the tickets. She ended up pulling the ticket, doing the whole drawing for the raffle. And just even in the meet and greet line, People said she was so great, interacting with everybody. There were a few little girls that were there who painted up like her, and she was so pumped about that, took her picture with them. And so it's got people wondering, who's kind of like our top three here in terms of just great experiences with these meet and greet guests.
Well, I mean, it's really hard to boil it down to the top three without talking finances, right? Because
Sure.
for the most part, we have not really had that bad of an experience with too many people. You know what I mean? Like, the only one that comes to mind is Vader. That was just really just a hassle to be around. Like, everyone has been pretty great, for the most part. Fine. If you want to talk financially, like, I think Kevin Nash is by far above and beyond the all-timer.
Yeah,
he's the all-time biggest gate in AIW history and the biggest meet and greet by a ton. Mm-hmm. I will say though, we were creeping up on that gate number on Saturday. I mean, we were off by a little bit, but it was a lot closer than it probably anyone probably would have thought. But I mean, that Brook Park show had like a 600 or 700 pre-sold, like it was a different ball game then. But these tickets were more expensive, and it was pretty close. I am always kind of gonna go to the Scott Hall meet and greets both times. I know that people have had bad experiences with him, but both times I had some of the most incredible experiences of my life, you know what I mean, with Scott Hall, as far as, a star coming in and just like being awesome. Like the first time we brought in Scott Hall, like there was a random ICP thing going on at the Agora, and he was like, "Oh, let's go down there." And like, we were in the dressing room as Violent J is painting his face to get ready for a performance, like just weird stuff like that. And like, Scott Hall was just so great. Other financially, Harley Race was very was very great, but as far as like interacting, like I mean, he was kind of
he couldn't.
He was on his way.
He was
he was on his way out. Like he wasn't totally all there. It seemed.
I will say,
Jeff Jarrett was great.
Jeff Jarrett was one I was thinking of in my head in terms of interacting with us, with other people. Man, Jeff Jarrett was a lot of fun to have. I was on the mic. I remember promoting his thing, pushing people to get in line, and he would just keep telling me random things to say to the crowd. He was a great time. You weren't there when we first had him, but the Godfather, when we had him at Mount Carmel, is one that people, of course, still talk about to this day. Taking pictures in the parking lot and smoking up with people, so that was a big one. But it was just
Steamboat was another great one.
Yeah,
like
holding court before the show started.
Holding court with everybody, drinking beers, watching the show, giving feedback.
Well, of course, then from there, right, you got to go Terry Funk all time is if we're going to pick a top three, Terry Funk's got to be in the top three.
Terry Funk. I mean, Terry Funk is probably my number one. Scott Hall is probably my number two, and number three can be any number of people. I mean, Terry Funk, I don't even like financially, who knows what it did, because that was like in the infancy of us even trying meet and greets, and we didn't even really know what the fuck we were doing. But man, just what a great 2 days with Terry Funk, like unforgettable stuff, much like the Scott Hall, just hanging out and hearing stories like that's what I love. And like not really a meet and greet, but you got to throw a little Guido in there for experience. You know what I mean?
course.
Like, it's for us, it's a little different, I think. Like, obviously there's finances and different things involved, but it's really like, like fans get the meet and greet and they get that moment. And, for us, sometimes we get, our own moments differently. You know what I mean? Like when when you're sitting in a bar and you're just drinking beers with Terry Funk, like, and he's just telling stories, and it's like, you're living a shoot interview. You know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of the same thing, like, with Scott Hall, like going out to eat with Scott Hall, and, you're just like living in one of his, shoot interviews. And, I think they appreciate, when you can hold a conversation with them and what they're talking about, and they realize the respect that you have for them. It makes it such a more enjoyable experience for both parties, So, I mean, I can't think of too many really bad experiences, honestly. I mean, even, like we talked about it a few weeks ago, but the Tammy Sitch meet and greet, I mean, she was great with all the fans, made a tremendous amount of money for the company. So, it's hard to, it's really hard to boil it down, but, I will go Terry Funk and Scott Hall, and then, that number 3 spot can be a zillion different people.
Well, because what people don't realize too is, you just said, our takeaways are very different. So if I look at it from how I saw people with the fans, the fan reaction, the fans really enjoying them, whatever order you want to go. But I would venture to say Thunder Rosa, Godfather, and Jeff Jarrett, just based upon watching them with everybody else and everybody's reaction to them. But another one I'm going to throw out there for us that was super beneficial was Billy Kidman.
And what's funny is he has one of Pedro and I were like, Pedro was actually going through his notes, because once we saw how this show was doing, Pedro has notes on a lot of the shows. And before Eventbrite, like Eventbrite gives us like analytics. But when we were doing the kind of old school method of just PayPal, just sell a front row and everything else is GA, like, I'm sure there's a report that we can run, but like, it's not as in depth. But Pedro has numbers written down from the meet and greets in those era, and Billy Kidman was one of the worst meet and greets we ever did. But his seminar was one of the greatest attended, so I mean, it's, there's a give and a take there, but Billy Kidman was,
well, not even just,
tremendous for us.
You get not even just his seminar, but I mean, like, for us,
he stayed for the whole show, talked after the show, gave feedback on the show, I mean,
he was huge in how we produce shows right now.
Correct. And it sounds so stupid, but forever we would do championship Japanese main event entrances for everybody because we knew that we would eventually put them on YouTube. But a big thing from Billy Kidman was you have to cut that time out of your show or it builds up. You're adding an extra half hour, 45 minutes on the back end of your show. And, we were getting ready for WrestleMania weekend that year, and we had such a tight time slot. We decided to cut that and go to the traditional, and this isn't groundbreaking stuff, but for us, we didn't ever want to do that, because we always wanted that clean presentation for when we eventually put things on YouTube. Just things like that he said. Have made the shows run so much more efficiently, among other tips and tricks that he gave us. That was just kind of one that I'll give away. The just announcing as is has cut so much time off shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was great. So, our meet and greet experience is different than what the fans would get and what they have. So it varies. But again, Thunder Rosa just so great and so giving when she was there. Like she just gets it, and
Well, she runs a promotion in Texas,
Yeah.
so she was a team player, and she was there to try to help us make money, and I won't get into the specifics, but she was very, we were able to, she was kind of a tough negotiator, but a fair negotiator, and we were able to kind of, come with this middle ground that worked so well for both of us, and she was so accommodating, and like you said, she went out of her way, like when her line died down, she said, hey, go buy Effie stuff, come buy these raffle tickets, helped sell the 50-50 raffle, which I believe the winner of the 50-50 got over $300. So that's a pretty good night for somebody to show up.
And the turnbuckle pad was signed off, and it was good. It was great time. And then since we're talking about her, we might as well bring up what were your thoughts on that match? We talked going into it. Hey, this is a big deal for Jocelyn, and did she bring it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that she disappointed anybody.
Yeah.
My big thing was the match could have been great, awful, mediocre, whatever. That really wasn't what I cared about. It was more about, getting her in there to mix it up with somebody that is, at an elite level on television.
Yeah.
And getting to talk to Thunder Rosa after, which she gave me incredible feedback on Jocelyn and, things to, her suggestions on things that can make her improve to make it to the next level, and spoke very highly of her. And, that's really all you can ask for. Obviously Jocelyn wasn't trained from scratch by us, but she came to our school to polish up her, everything. And I think, maybe 2 years ago, she would not have had the confidence to have this match that she had on Saturday. And, now she's there. And, Jocelyn is a good example of the process of whether you're not trained or already trained, when you come to our school, how we can prepare you for, the big match when it comes. And this was her big match, probably her biggest match to date. And she did great, and it's getting great reviews from people that are now watching the stream. I was very proud of Jocelyn. I think that it's what she needed. It's what, and
Yeah.
you also need that failure and that fall on your face as a wrestler too. But
Sure.
that wasn't it for her on Saturday. She did great, and I think Thunder Rosa. I thank Thunder Rosa honestly for afterwards not only talking to me privately, but pulling Jocelyn aside and giving her tons of feedback as well.
Yeah, I mean, I told Jocelyn Saturday, to me, for her, that's a star-making match.
Well, and
what she had.
Thunder Rosa even said, she sent some stuff into her promotion a year or two ago, and she said, "No way, am I gonna book this girl?" And now, she said, whatever she sent me, she has come leaps and bounds more, in a forward motion than what she saw, in the videos that she submitted to get booked at her promotion. Because she was even a little hesitant to work with her based on, seeing some of those videos, a year or two or however long ago. And, Jocelyn changed her perception of her, you know what I mean? And showed her how much she has worked to improve. So I thought it was, great. It was great for multiple reasons. It was great for Jocelyn. It was a great advertisement for the AIW school, and it was a great match to have on an AIW show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it checked 3 different boxes.
Yeah, it certainly did. And, so we go to one of the other matches that we talked about last week of giving someone all right, here you go match. This is your opportunity to show that you want it. This is a match that you wanted. And TKD and Effie. And I thought that match delivered. And that is, to date, that may be Tom's best match.
And, Tom had, since, publicly coming out and different things, I think that has kind of helped him a little bit feel more comfortable, maybe in his own skin, not only in just everyday life, but as a wrestler as well. I've seen a lot more confidence in him than, say, 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had presented a bunch of different things to me before. And, Effie was kind of on his list of people he wanted to work with, obviously. And, when I worked the deal out with Effie, Tom wasn't even aware that was going to happen, until the deal was done. I didn't give him any kind of false hope or anything. That was the match that he wanted. And I thought that, I thought it did great. I thought he did great, and, Tom is a guy that doesn't find himself on every AIW show. But this was certainly a great, kind of showcase for him to not only me, but the fans that were there live, the fans that are going to watch the stream. And I thought it was great. Definitely what he needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Much like Jocelyn, but for different reasons. And obviously, if you are a gay man in the world of pro wrestling right now, you are going to look up to Effie. He's not the first gay wrestler, but he has really done a lot to open people's eyes to to become more accepting of gay wrestlers, within the independent wrestling scene. So Tom very much looks up to Effie, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, and this match had one of those moments where we give a shout out to the crowd, and this kind of goes along with a question that was in the Discord about, because they brought up Dark Side of the Ring with Canyon, that episode, and about how locker rooms have changed and just people's view as people being equals. But Tom and Effie certainly pushed the envelope a bit in this match, and there were moments in this match where if you really think about it, you look at it and you're like, 10 years ago, I don't know what that crowd reaction would have been, but the crowd was so great and just loved every moment of this match. Even those moments where, again, 10 years ago, you were like, "Oh, I don't know how they would have reacted," unfortunately. But I love the fact that the majority of our audience, and we get this all the time, and we see what you guys tweet, and the majority of the audience is super accepting of everybody.
And there is like an alleged some comment that went around, that's has kind of made its rounds on Twitter. I didn't hear it. You didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it, yeah.
The performers didn't hear it, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know how loud it was shouted. I don't know exactly what was said. It was brought to different people's attention kind of in an after-the-fact thing. And it's like, what can we... I don't know what we can do about that. All I can say is, if you hear it, you have to kind of like, I don't want to say police the crowd, you know what I mean? But like, we don't hear all of these things, and we don't know exactly what's going on, and it's really hard to kind of address them after the fact, especially if it is, from what I'm told, like an older, probably local Akron guy, who has, I can't imagine is on Twitter in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the solution is, but what I don't agree with is that it is kind of made out to be some sort of indictment on the company, when we are obviously putting this match out there, like you can't say that, we're not an accepting environment, you know what I mean? Based on somebody.
Yeah.
Listen, this guy bought a ticket just like you bought a ticket. Like I don't, I can't vet everybody to say, hey, what are you going to say tonight? And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, it wasn't like he was shouting it. Because I think if he was shouting it, there was, over 500 people in there. I would think somebody would say, hey, shut the fuck up.
Oh, we've had those moments.
But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just, and, I listen, no matter what we say kind of on this, post after the fact isn't gonna, it's not gonna resolve it. It's not gonna erase it from happening. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do. And like, I keep getting these tweets, like, make a public statement. Like, what? Like,
we're a pretty inclusive environment. Our
right,
fans,
like,
our fans
I don't
know
feel
that. We have gone to bat for our fans in
I don't feel we need to go out and make this big public statement and give this guy who's never going to see it any more attention.
Right.
Like, from what, like,
he doesn't listen to this podcast.
Right. He's not going to listen to this podcast. He's not going to read our Twitter. Like, I don't know, and I'm told, like, well, all the seats were assigned, so you should be able to find him out. He was sitting behind me. Well, that doesn't narrow it down either. And the fourth row was added day of, so those seats were not assigned. Those seats were sold at the door. So, like, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but, people are coming with all sorts of these hypotheticals on Twitter, and it's just like, you're giving this person what they wanted, and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
If you're saying these things for attention, but I mean, why give this guy any more attention? Why are you talking about that when you should be talking about the match? And what a great experience it was for TKD. How progressive that was for AIW as a company to put that match out there. And like, you could say whatever you want, but, to put that match out there in Akron, Ohio, in a, somewhat more rural area, with, we're going to be drawing in a different fan base,
Yeah.
Like, we put that out there, you know what I mean? As a, like, you have to accept this. Obviously, I guess one guy didn't, but 400 plus other people did. Like, you have to look at that.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say the bulk of Shriners probably vote red. and we were like, you know what? We're throwing this match out there though. So don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it. Too bad. This is happening. And we back our talent, we back our people.
And I just like it just really bothered me that it was let's take this to Twitter thing and make it like an anti-AIW thing. Like, we had any control over it.
Well, and here's the thing. Let me clarify a little bit. When we ask, police is probably not the correct term, but we're not saying that if you're someone who doesn't feel like you're comfortable confronting somebody else, we're not telling you specifically. Like, we're asking for help is what it is, because we don't hear everything. We don't see everything. There are situations that we found out about this year. Somebody saying stuff in a crowd. We didn't know until after the fact. That person no longer comes to AIW shows, is not allowed at AIW shows because of that.
And that person was easily identifiable.
Yes,
like, nobody
100%.
knows who this person is. Like, I guess Pedro was contacted when it was going on, but it's like, you have to go and like physically get somebody from AIW and say, hey, you know, like you can't say like, hey, this guy's saying this bad stuff. Like Pedro didn't hear it. You know what I mean? Like he's putting money in envelopes to pay the talent at the time, you know, like I'm in the back, you know, you're right there. You don't hear it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is. And I know, you know, the more I talk about it, the more somebody's going to misconstrue like this statement as it is, you know, like I didn't even want to address it on the podcast, but you know, you can't say that we don't like, you know, like we are like this unsafe place when we're the ones putting that match out there. You know, we're the ones, you know, backing our openly gay talent TKD and giving him his dream match with openly gay talent Effie. Like you can't say like, oh man, AIW is not safe. Like what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know, like come on, like stop making this like a Twitter pile-on, because that's not.
We're also the promotion where we had an ignorant fan say something and Ethan Page got on the mic and just roasted the hell out of the dude.
And I'm sure if Effie heard it or Thunder Rosa heard it or whatever else has been alleged, they would have done it.
Yeah.
You know, like I just can't. It's hard for us to go and say like, you know, like I don't know. Like, do you want like what were we to do? Go publicly? And I mean, I didn't even learn about this till 3:00 in the morning when the show was over. You know, after I charged my phone. But like, in retrospect, what was I supposed to do? Go out there and yell at the guy and draw attention away from the match and give him all this attention? You know, like I don't know. You know, like I don't know what the solution is, honestly.
Yeah, we're not. You know, here's the thing: it's not a huge arena. And I don't want to keep talking about it. So, like, you know, you can't quietly sneak somebody out of there so that it doesn't draw too much away from what's going on, because you still want people to be able to watch what the most important thing that was happening was what was in the ring.
Right. Like, and you know, like
we don't have to. It's all
just
good.
But I'm saying, like, out of everything that happened on Saturday, it was great.
Yeah.
But like, when I look at my Twitter and I keep getting these like, when are you going to make a fucking like standards and practices of the fans? Like why are you talking about this when we should be talking about how great the match was, you know? And like what a great night it was for TKD.
Yeah.
And Jocelyn, you know, like
it was.
Let's talk about that. Like, why are we going to focus on this, you know, this, what I'm told, old guy, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't, I guarantee does not go on Twitter or Facebook, or maybe Facebook, but, you know.
Not today, though.
It's just, that's like the one thing that bothered me, because it's like, you know, it's like you're trying to like indict me as a person. You know, yeah. Like, I didn't say it. I didn't do it. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. Like, that's why I hate Twitter, you know, because it's just like, oh, let's all pile on and like make this vague statement about this company, even though we're putting this match on. Like, how can you say that?
Right. Well, let's move on. Certainly, because there's so much to get to, and we're not going to get to all of it. But there's so many highlights from the show.
Well, let's get to some of these. Let's get to some of these Discord questions. Let's lighten the mood.
Well, one question does happen to be.
Well, I will say though, on the A Rose question, I don't know how more accepting locker rooms are, because I was not in the 2001 WWF locker room. You know, you could go off of what they allege in Dark Side of the Ring. Mm-hmm. I think there's probably been gay wrestlers forever. Yeah. So I don't know, but
Pat Patterson is well known,
right? But I mean,
you know, but
I think you know, I guess I don't know if it's about being more accepting in the locker room. It's certainly more accepting in the ring. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you watch some even like 2000 WWE like broadcast, you'll hear some real bad stuff.
Oh, for sure.
So I think it's more about it's becoming more accepting from a fan's perspective.
Yeah. Well, let me look here. One of the questions was, in fact, about the seating. Did we think that the assigned seating worked? Is this something that we're going to continue?
I think it worked. However, what I learned is some of you guys are real complainy. Like people want these seats to sit with their friends, and people would rush to the shows early to kind of save like this cluster of seats and all this other stuff. So now we're just assigning the seats, right? And like you could show up whenever you want, your name's on the seat, and people are still mad about where their cluster of seats are, and it's just like, well, I want to sit in this one that's 3 over, or I can't sit by this person. Listen, it's not going away. I mean, it's not, because the complaining from the newer fans was far outweighing the regulars. You know what I mean? And now you have complaints from the regulars because they have where they want to sit. But it's not going away because, the idea is we would like to draw in new fans to build onto the regular fans. And the only way we can retain the new fans is if there's a nice system in place for them to not have to go, hey, this guy took my seat, and
yeah.
So it's not going away. And I know Charlie Butters was upset that people thought that it was his fault because he asked the question on the podcast.
It was not Charlie's fault.
It was already in motion. This was really a Pedro decision. I've been against it because I knew that the complaints were going to come, but Pedro has to deal with the front of the house and the people coming in, and he got sick of having to go and say, hey, you have to move over, you have to do this, because what happens is, some group buys 3 tickets, one person buys 1 ticket, somebody buys 5 tickets, and then people just sit wherever they want, and then the guy that bought the 4 tickets can't sit with his party anymore,
Yeah.
because people are like, well, no, I'm here, and it makes a bad experience for people. So now, you're getting sat in whatever your grouping is that you bought your tickets with, and that's it. If you buy tickets separately from whoever, you want to try to sit by, it's a roll of the dice from this point on. You guys are going to have to, pool your money together and Venmo each other, I guess, if you want guaranteed to sit with each other.
For the sake of Pedro's sanity and ours,
I need you fans, but I need Pedro a lot more, I think. You know what I mean? Like, he does a lot. There is no AIW without Pedro. So you guys are just going to have to suck it up and take these assigned seats.
If you know that you're going to go with people to shows, it would help us out tremendously and would make you happier if you buy the tickets, like John said, all in one grouping, Venmo each other, PayPal each other, give somebody cash day of the show, whatever the case may be. So if you want to sit together, please buy the tickets and the group, as a whole. So rather than, if there's 3 of you and you each buy an individual ticket, we don't necessarily know that all 3 of you are trying to sit together. So you may not end up in the same spot during these assigned seating things. And it frankly, while I think that we were very helpful and we're open to working with everybody this week, part of that was because we knew that we're doing this the first time. But we are very busy during the course of show weeks. So we can't promise that we're going to keep doing that or that we will be able to do that. And certainly someone like Pedro, who is extremely busy during a show week, can't promise that he's going to be able to then take the time and reorganize everything. So to simplify it, to make everybody happier, buy your tickets together. figure out who's all coming with you, give them a deadline, or, I don't know. If you think you might have 3 or 4 people with you, buy 3 or 4 tickets and go from there. I'm not really sure what else to say about it, unfortunately. But like John said, it's not going away.
No, it's definitely it's here to stay, because when you get that new fan, you know what I mean, they're not going to come back if their first experience is arguing with 3 people in the front row if they can please scoot down one.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Here's a good one from A Rose, our guy in the Discord there. Because this was so successful, and we've talked about the crowd so many times already, any thoughts on doing a 2-night event in Akron?
We really can't, because they do not allow rentals on Fridays. So if we did, it would have to be a Saturday and a Sunday, which I don't know how that goes. I will say that I certainly want to do more events in Akron coming out of this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it is bigger city versus smaller, more rural city or what, but Cleveland has been a struggle since we came back in April. Akron shocked everybody, and I know that it was a pretty stacked lineup, but still, we've had stacked lineups in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they have been a struggle. And I would say, and though we were putting restrictions in place in Cleveland, we struggled to meet that restricted number. Akron, I think, was set in a loose math, was probably sold Cleveland 3-1. So I would like to do more events. I don't know about a 2-night event, but we would like to do 3 to 5 in 2022 in Akron and see if it was a fluke or if the area really wants good wrestling, and we do pull from Cleveland, obviously, and Akron, but I think we pull from a completely different fan pool as well, down there. So yeah. I don't know, there's, I know we said last week, now we are in planning mode. That is, Akron is definitely really high on the priority list on, how we plan 2022 dates. There's even talk of maybe moving some of the marquee events there because capacity is so large. So I don't know. We will see, but I don't know about the 2 nights, but I would certainly expect more events there.
Hey, there you go. So the planning has begun. Not a whole ton of I kind of peppered him in already. So, here's one looking for updates. John just kind of alluded to, so I can answer this a little bit. We are going to go into planning mode here a bit, and that would include the answer to this question about ideas for future Patreon exclusives, featuring new commentary tracks, retrospectives, and other extra podcasts like School Sucks and whatnot.
I can say that we recorded at least 3 exclusive Patreon podcasts Saturday in Akron. So the planning has begun for that, and actually the production of things have begun for adding more stuff to Patreon. And that is another benefit of the Tadmore Shrine. It is a big open, there's a lot of hidden rooms in there. We were able to get in very early, and with it being a Saturday, I didn't have to work. I got there early, and I got we did 3 special podcasts just for Patreon.
Bam. There you go. All right.
I'm gonna get with Wadsworth, and we're gonna do more alternate commentaries and things like that. I would expect, we are gonna kind of during the off time try to really, build up a bank of Patreon exclusive stuff.
And now, because we're almost an hour into this, we're over an hour into this. Let's get into it. One of the things brought up in the Discord, your reaction to social media's reaction to Saturday's big moment and main event and everything that transpired.
Well, what is the exact question?
The vitriol being spewed because Cardona is getting the push here. What are your thoughts on some fans now hating you?
I thought it would certainly get a reaction, obviously, right? I mean, how can it not get a reaction? Just look at his social media numbers, and regardless of what you think of him, everything he does, he promotes the fuck out of on his social media. Mm-hmm. I certainly thought that it would get like a I'm playing along, boo, as a fan reaction, right? Like, I thought it was definitely the move to freshen and kind of, I don't want to use the AEW cliche, like paradigm shift the company, but I thought this was like, okay, everybody, look, we are like, you didn't even see it coming, and we are 100% back, right? Like, I think people had talked themselves out of it because they were like, oh, well, he's not going to win because GCW did it, so they're not going to do it because GCW did it, so that is why I did it, and then people are mad, you know what I mean? And because they had talked themselves out of, there was no way that I would do that, so now that I did that and they didn't predict it, they're mad, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're mad that they were kind of worked, they worked themselves and, into a shoot somewhat. I certainly did not think in today's day and age where everyone is in on it, we literally do a podcast about producing and breaking down a pro wrestling company and everything that goes into it. I certainly did not feel that people would react in legit anger and hatred towards me. I was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, some people feel very strongly. Longtime fans, big time supporters have blocked me on social media, blocked AIW on social media.
Blocked me on social media.
Blocked a lot of people on social media, have gone on their personal Facebooks ranting, have gone on the AIW Facebook ranting about what a joke I am. I mean, I think it's kind of silly and childish, but people forget, like, this is what pro wrestling's about, right? Like,
it's about evoking that emotion.
Like, the fact that, like, I've just said all of those things. We literally do a podcast where we talk about everything that goes on behind the scenes, and you still, like, react like that? I mean, come on. Like, that is what pro wrestling is all about. Like, you're really not going to give me your money ever again because I was able to get that emotion out of you? Like, that's crazy, right? Like, that is what every fan dreams of, I think, is, like, actually feeling something at a live pro wrestling event.
Right. But, let's threaten a huge promotion for 20 years that you're going to stop watching because you don't like what they're doing, but you'll keep watching. That's what it's about. What's Saturday? Look, I'm sorry that we've sat here and told you that we weren't really doing stories, but there was a story. We did kind of tell you that there are stories that are happening if you really look and pay attention. And Saturday was one of those days and one of those moments of pro wrestling storytelling, right? Fan favorites, PME, lose to the main event, which is...
We got to do spoiler alert here for anybody that hasn't watched the stream.
Sorry. All right, spoiler alert here happening right now. I think people have seen the pictures of Cardona, but, we set the table there without you, and they did a fantastic job of setting
we set the table. We set the table at Go for Broke.
Before this. Yeah.
The table, this has been going for...
since April?
When to Go for Broke? When to Go for Broke?
The first Go for Broke started in April.
Right. So months. And people aren't realizing this. And people are getting a little complainy that there is no storylines and these are just whatever. And we're kind of playing along in this podcast. Like there's no storylines. And Saturday, it all locks in. There's
been one big storyline. It's been there for you.
Now you can go back and go, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what it is all about, and like 100%. I don't think many companies are doing it. I know that the fact that we usually do stories and we quote unquote weren't doing stories was a big disappointment to our loyal fan base. And they just didn't realize that there were breadcrumbs going the whole time. And I kept saying, hey, we're coming back full go at Hell on Earth, right? Mm-hmm. But the last show where you could almost say AIW died was at the Tadmor Shrine. Mm-hmm. So it was only fitting for AIW to finally be reborn out of the pandemic at the Tadmor Shrine. There is so much more there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
From, my standpoint of, telling the story of AIW, hey, this is where we died and this is where we came back to life. The same building. And I did not expect that big of a crowd. But that only made it even better. You know what I mean? That made it even more true from my standpoint. And boom, here we are. We're back at the Tadmor Shrine, and now Hell on Earth has so much more anticipation, which I've been saying was going to be the real relaunch for months.
Yeah. But you need the anticipation to build up to it still. You know what I mean? You can't go into that cold, per se.
And that's what I'm saying is we've kind of led people on this whole time on the podcast to believe that was the real relaunch when it needed to happen at the Tadmor Shrine. And it was going to set everything in motion, and it has set everything in motion for what I hope to be a record crowd in the Cleveland-ish area. We're in Eastlake, but, we booked that big building because we want to fill that big fucking building, So, this is where, it all kind of came together.
And take away whatever your personal thoughts are of Matt Cardona and the character he's portrayed on TV for the last however many years, last decade, whatnot. There was this ongoing feud that was happening. And throughout the course of the year, when these guys say Summer of the Shooters, that wasn't just a line. I mean, there was a tide turning. There was a big part of the fan base. It's crazy. You go back a few years ago and how much everybody hated Barkley Nation and Wes Barkley, right? And but this summer, you really started to see that tide change. And people really get behind these guys. And part of that was, of course, what happened at Major Announcement, there was all of that, and it kind of started with Go for Broke, like you said, and went from here, and this other tag team who was crowned some time ago, and people still loved, still good times and good vibes, but it just felt like not as many good times and good vibes, or there weren't as many people going along for those good times and good vibes. So that natural shift, that organic shift was happening, and it just needed
a
vehicle, right? And that's kind of Matt Cardona.
But you brought up a great point, and another thing that people don't really realize is that Major Announcement show in June, when everybody decides they're going to cheer the Rip City Shooters into Infinity
Mm-hmm.
Beyond, two gigantic heels traditionally in AIW.
Yeah.
Like, they started the switch there. You know what I mean? Like, people don't realize that started the slow turn there,
Mm-hmm.
And in the other direction, Go for Broke started PME the other direction, Like, there were so many little things that I don't think people picked up on. They probably aren't going to realize them until they listen to this podcast, that were strategically done, and they were presented as these are just some matches, you know what I mean? Like, and I really felt, I'm not going to lie, I felt very proud of myself after last Saturday night. I had been really kind of indifferent because I didn't know if people were biting and following along, and you look at the Go for Broke numbers and the other streaming numbers and all the stuff that had been going on, and it was like, I don't know if this is going to work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it worked to perfection. I think the story has just begun. And for those that didn't realize there was a story, this is probably a good time for you to go back and watch it all and try to pick up on it, and try to, do it all together. This is like a good project for wrestling cheers, you know what I mean? Or, Pod Van Dam, to go back and watch these shows and start analyzing, like
IWTV guide. Shout out Charlie Butters.
right. Like, I think that there's kind of a lot of stuff there. Now seeing the end result, well, not the end result, but seeing, this kind of chapter, close on Saturday or whatever you want to call it. I think, you can go back and kind of watch everything from Go for Broke and start kind of piecing it together.
Yeah, the 40 to 50 hour work weeks I was putting in for Go for Broke for no pay and a limited viewing audience felt good when the payoff goes this long and everything happens on Saturday. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, here I am months later and I look back and I'm like, all right, it's pretty cool to be able to help tell this story.
And I don't think anybody saw it coming that way.
Right.
I don't think anybody saw it coming at all. I think maybe a few people thought, oh, maybe Cardona will win. I don't think anybody saw how it was going to go down. I believe Wednesday I will be releasing the first statement from Mr. Cardona as the new AIW Absolute Intense champion. And Friday, live in New Jersey, AIW Tag Team title match, PME versus the Rip City Shooters.
Here we go.
So, the saga continues.
Yeah, that rematch is happening live on IWTV. IWTV's Untitled.
Yeah, so just very, very happy with everything Saturday night. Outside of, what we discussed earlier in the podcast, I thought everything just really came together, and it's made the stress of the last, almost 2 years at this point, really feel worth it. Like, I really just felt like, I literally wanted to cry. Like, I was just like, this just feels so great again. It felt like the real AIW was back. It felt like, this is where we were in 2019, in those, first 2 shows of 2020, before the rug was, pulled out from underneath us. It just all came together, and there was just no better feeling than that. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing better. And we'll, probably, since we have so much time off, we will get back to doing some of these full retrospective podcasts again. But everything delivered. We've introduced so many kind of new characters and casts, since coming back, from Ethan Wright to the main event, Jocelyn Navarro, people like Kaplan have resurfaced, bulking season, so much stuff has... The growth of the
Bitcoin boys, yeah,
so much stuff is, if you really think about it, very new. And man, everything was clicking so great. And it felt like all these months of work, people were finally on board with all of them. For better or for worse. They were new, who are the faces, who are the heels, what the acts were, and we're primarily also playing to a new crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is where the AIW hardcores come into play, and their knowledge and reactions become infectious to the new people, and the new fans now know, what is what and who is who and who to cheer for and who to boo for. And not only that, everybody performed so well on Saturday night.
They did.
Everybody was on their shit in the ring, between the ropes. Like, everybody, you know what I mean? Like, everybody looked like a fucking star. And everybody did so well. And they listened and they followed, the instructions of, people are finally learning what their characters are and how to present themselves in front of the crowd. And it just all felt like it was finally working. My hope is at Hell on Earth, it is the same with a gigantic crowd, and we continue, and we can finally fill the fucking Odeon on December 18th, right? Like, that is like, you know what I mean? Like, let's really pack them in at Hell on Earth. Let's get the fucking Odeon back to what the Odeon was, the intense arena, fucking people going nuts, packed to the brim. And let's fucking look forward to 2022. Like, I really feel very rejuvenated after Saturday night, and like, that's why, like, those, like, things on Twitter that were focusing on the negativity really bothered me, because, man, like, everything is just ready to fucking go finally. You know what I mean? Like, I am ready. Like, yeah. And I am not, like, I am back to where I was in 2019, where I really thought that AIW was fucking unstoppable. Like, I feel like we have the fucking crew again. We have everything in place. Let's fucking go.
There you go. I'm not I'm not saying anything to roll on after that. That's perfect. Perfect end to this episode. We'll have more from this whole night. I'm sure, like John said, we'll get back to the retrospectives of everything, and we'll break things down in a bit more detail. But great way to end things right here and wrap it all up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and subscribe to the Patreon now that you know more is coming. Patreon.com/AI Wrestling. Follow us on all sorts of social media, all of it at AI Wrestling.
I will say also, front row to Hell on Earth has already sold out. Second row is almost sold out. We're only doing 3 rows. And then everything is going to be standing after that. So get your, I mean, maybe we'll add a 4th row if things sell out far enough in advance, but get those tickets, because I was shocked actually the front row already sold out, this far in advance. So
Psycho Clown, big AIW debut, Hell on Earth,
and more announcements to come. And I'm working on more I'm working on more stuff for that lineup as well. But man, I need a drink of water after that last little rant.
Shop.aiwrestling.com for your tickets, folks. Like I said, follow us on social media. Find us there. You can find ticket links at AI Wrestling. For AIW owner John Thornton, my name is Steve Guy. We will talk to you next week right here on The Card is Going to Change.